Hello, welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Son of a Witch, Southstairs 2. The animosity that it obtained between Sisters Doctor and Apotecaire subsided once dusk fell on their first evening away from the Monterey of St. Glinda. The women erected the frame of thin shark ribs and fixed the waterproof awning to it. Then they huddled together under a blanket. When the wolves of the Apotecaire forest howled in their midnight requiem, the sisters mangled their devotions in such a gabble of syllables and sobs that, had the unnamed god been condescending to listen, it could have only concluded that its two emissionaries were afflicted with sudden onset glossolalia. The superior monk thought it safe to send us out on an exploratory mission, even though the faces of those three young missionaries had so recently been scraped, said Sister Apotecaire. The following morning, which dawned damp and windless, I trust her in every particular, she added fiercely, unconvincingly. Our change is clear, said Doctor, safety or no. We are to make an effort to tribal Scrow if we locate them, and certainly the Yanamata. We must inquire about the disaster that struck those missionaries. With the conviction of our faith in the unnamed God, no harm will befall us. Do you propose the missionaries were in greater danger because of their faith was weak? Asked Sister Apotecaire. Sister Doctor's lips became thinner as she folded the awning away. Cowardice, said the superior monk, will not serve us in this task. Sister Apotecaire relented. Cowardice is a dubious attribute. Yet I possess it in space, so I hope on this venture to learn how to use it to my advantage if I must. All gifts come from the unnamed God, including cowardice and self-repugnance. The mules dropped their heavy hoofs on the path, picking away between ranks of thin trees with branches nearly empty of leaves. Little cover. Perhaps, said Sister Doctor, the superior monk sent us out so we could be better able to tend to each other medically were we attacked. If we survive, well, I've no doubt that our skills here in the wilderness will be useful. After all, I do speak a dialect of West Yumish. Well, you've had a bit too much seasonal sherry. They laughed at that and proceeded in companionable silence until Sister Apotecaire couldn't stand this. Now, Lear was Candle's responsibility. Funny little thing. What can she bring to Lear that we can't? Don't be stupid. She can bring youth and charm if we get his attention. She can bring him a reason to survive. This is something neither you nor I could do. If he opened his eyes after a long coma and saw neither of us right off, probably get kicked the bucket in a nonce. Since Sister Apotecaire did not murmur assent, she was proud of her looks. Well, her face anyway. Her figure was regrettably lumpy. Perhaps, she said distractingly, Candle has a natural talent that the superior monk can make sense. What sort of talent? Sister Doctor shifted in her saddle and turned to peer at her colleague. You don't mean a talent for magic? That's distinctly forbidden in the order. Come, you know perfectly well we resort to it when we must. Not that we're very good at it. I need hardly remind you that these are dangerous times. Perhaps the superior monk thinks in the rehabilitation of the boy such a talent is called for. By the straightening of her spine, Sister Doctor signaled that she did not tend to second-guess the superior monk's motives. Sister Apotecaire regretted having brought it up. Well, she continued falsely jovially, I don't have much of a sense of Candle one way or the other. If she's got the common magic or common sense, it's news to me either way. She certainly has no talent for music, Sister Doctor sniffed. I do remember the day she arrived, though. I happened to be stuttering one of the novices in the kitchen. I turned to ask sweetly for water, and that was Candle. Her giddy demigod slug over one shoulder like a crossbow. Mad old Mother Yackle had her by the hand, as if she was just creating her out of cow's foot jelly. The gypsy quaddling, her uncle leaves her to us, said Mother Yackle. Mother Yackle doesn't speak, and hasn't in years. That's why I remember the event so distinctly. Did you see the quaddling uncle? I went to the window, and he hasn't making his way rather hurriedly through the kitchen. I called out to him, for there are procedures for the introduction of a novice, and this wasn't one of them. But he wouldn't be stopped, merely called over by the shoulder that wouldn't be back in a year if he was still alive. It's rare to see quadlings this far north these days. I imagine this poor girl is quite lonely. Oh yes, no one speaks quaddle. I believe the term is quatai. So is Candle mute, or is it that she just doesn't speak to anyone her native tongue with? I don't know. Perhaps it was Candle's silence and self-control that had inspired the sister mount to choose her for her keeping vigil over Lear. The mounts began to regret their tendencies to bark at each other. Thinking on their noisy failings, they fell into a silence now. In the following days, they came their share of blue squirrels, bald egrets, and disagreeable emmets. The egrets agreed to keep cover, rarely taking wing. The emmets preferred the building. It wasn't until near dusk on the fourth day that the moths came to an animal. A lone and pagan water buffalo in the shallows of a cove of rest water, Oz's biggest lake. Oh, moaned the water buffalo at their approach. Not the missionary voice traveling in twos. Not again. I bury my own ways. I only speak when spoken to. I lick my knees 50 times a night before I sleep. What more do I do to please the fates? I don't want to be converted. Don't you understand? All right, get it over with. I'll lapse before nightfall, I promise you. I can't help myself. Perhaps I'm too far gone for you to bother with me, he peered, both gloomily and hopefully at them. We're not converters, said Sister Apotecaire. We haven't the time. And who cares about you? You can go to hell, said Sister Doctor, meaning to be cheerful. This was the right note. As it happened, the water buffalo began to smile. Scarcely see a soul coming from your direction who doesn't have designs on my immortal soul, said the water buffalo. It used to be me. I was worried about my hide. I always thought a soul was private, but it appears it can't be colonized against your will if you don't watch it out. Well, we are mounts, admitted Sister Apotecaire. The water buffalo winced. No, say it ain't so. Your plates of glamour and glasses of fashion, as anyone who rests a sore eye upon you should have to agree. Don't be mincing, snapped Sister Doctor. Those are perfectly reasonable clothes for traveling in. Depends on where you want to get to, intoned the water buffalo. Look, we can evangelize like the best of them, if that's what it's going to take. Sorry, said the water buffalo. I'll be good. What's your game? They told him. He knew nothing of the attacks on the young mounts and their scrapings, nor he had ever heard of Lear or his misadventures, but he had seen airborne battalions of trained creatures flying so high that he couldn't make them out. Something's amiss, he said. I know there's been an attempt to call a Congress of Birds out in the west, but lately I've seen few birds brave enough to fly anything like a descent height. We can't patrol the skies now, said Sister Doctor. It's the Scrow or the Unamata we need to find. The Scrow rarely venture this far east. However, you may come across a small band of Unamata if they haven't been moved out yet. They're down from Cambricious Pass. I came across them from bathing this morning. We all mind our own business. They don't have anything to do with the unnamed God, so they don't bother me, and I don't bother them. They rinsed their toad gnomes and washed their hair, and one of them gave birth to a baby underwater. They're rather froggy folk when it comes to birthing. They calculated a birth pipe around past to the sun for an hour or so, and then gathered their things and left. They seemed to be heading somewhere. Several dozen of them, no more. If you see them, tell them we're coming, said Sister Doctor. Jubilation, they'll be over the moon, all the water buffalo. If you want to keep up, if you want to meet up with them, better not tell them where you're coming, honeys. The sisters moved on. Before they had lost sight of the water buffalo, Sister Apotecaire turned to and called, "We forgot to ask your name." "Only the chattering classes of animals have names," the water buffalo replied cheerily. "There hasn't been a professional animal the length and breadth of Oz for 30 years. If I don't have a name, I can't be targeted as a potential convert, can I?" A moment later, when he was out of sight, his voice ran them thinly. "Though if you had to locate me, I suppose I'd answer to the name Buff." "Weird creature," said Sister Apotecaire a while later. "He survived, a talking animal in the wild," Sister Doctor reminded her. "It can't be easy after the wizard's banishment. The animals didn't rush for reassimilation. Who could blame them with all they'd been through? Sounds as if the creature's been dogged by zealots, though." "Indeed. Well, the Emperor's a devout man and wants all his subjects to enjoy the benefits of faith, I suppose." Another night, the wolves howled more fiercely than ever. The dawn seemed full of its own arcane purpose, a polite light reaching through glade clown hemp. The mounts ventured out across the disappointments. Then, as easy as playing at knackers, they came across a group of Unamata doing the winter rush work. "Hail," said Sister Apotecaire in Yumish, or have I said hell by mistake? "Hello, Yuhu, Unamata, we come in peace." "What are you saying?" asked Sister Doctor. They looked mystified. "I'm addressing their tribal gods," said Sister Apotecaire, and in Yumish. Good one. Good human person, woman, being. Good thing. Where's the library?" In all her anxiety, it was all she could remember. "They look amused," said Sister Doctor. "That's respect," said Sister Apotecaire. But amusement was better than hostility, so she began to relax, and more of the plain tongue began to return to her. The Unamata were known for keeping themselves nomadic, but not a horse culture like Skro. The Smingish tribe was fleet of foot and economical of domestic independencia, needing only a few pack animals to carry their belongings. Generally, they sheltered in Cumbricia's Pass or the forested slopes of the Kells south of there, what they were doing in the open country. Sister Doctor, who never liked to go slumming as a veterinarian, felt she could sniff out animal tendency. The Unamata looked as if they all had one giant docile frog among their ancestors. Way back. Nothing like webbing between their digits. No long flickering tongues. No. They were human through and through. But an amphibian sort of human, not with leathery skin, narrow, ridiculous limbs, and thin lips that seemed partially withdrawn in their mouths. One laughed at the silliness of them. Laugh and they could be carved to shreds. For when aroused, they could be a formidable enemy. The Unamata had skill with knives. Mostly they used to serrate their tools. Lethal curved blades set in handles of the hardest monogamy. For aid in the construction of their own tree nests that they had harbored at night. Those same knives could carve a pig or eviscerate a minor or cannon with equal efficiency. Sister Apotecaire set out to convince the Unamata that their mounts were abroad neither to betray the clan nor convert them. Just in case, like the water buffalo, they had been previously targeted at a population ripe for conversion. As a group, they listened and promoted no spokesperson among them. By turning, they mouthed small, neat phrases. Sister Apotecaire took pains to translate these marks to her colleagues carefully, and to question her own understanding if they had any doubt. She didn't want to assent to human martyrdom merely because she'd forgotten some nicety of Yumish grammar. Was there a retractable Plufferic subjunctive and humish. We are going on quite a while, said Sister Doctor after an hour or so. I'm doing my job, and I'm trying to see if we're going to be invited to stay for supper, said Sister Apotecaire. Leave me be. I hope they aren't teetotalers. I think I'm getting a sniffle. When the conversation had concluded at last, and the Unimata retreated to prepare a meal, Sister Doctor said, Well, I deduce from your smug expression that they're not about to sharpen their blades to scrape our faces from us, though I'd like to hear it directly to ease my mind. They speak by indirection. They know about the scrapings. They have seen evidence of it. They say it must be the Scrow. The Scrow have a tradition of royalty, and their queen is an old woman named Nastoya, who has been in declining health for a decade. Were we to fulfill the mission assigned to us, we must have to hunt for this Princess Nastoya, and to prove her about these infractions. The Unimana insists that the Scrow must be in allegiance with the Emperor. Ridiculous. If the Scrow were in allegiance with the Emperor, would they be scraping his emissaries, or the Unimana lying? Look at them. Could they lie? Don't be soft. Of course they could. The most prurient cat can still kill a bird within a half purr. I suppose I can believe them, said Sister Apotecaire, because they admit to their capacity for vengeance. But they have told me that this is the season of the jackal, and out of wariness of the moon's opinion, they take a vow of genitility. Babies born under the jackal moon are considered lucky. Babies are born in rust water are luckier still. Are you sure you understood correctly? Throughout Oz, the season of the jackal is considered dangerous. Perhaps it's a kind of propitiation, said Sister Apotecaire. They mentioned the old dowager, a kind of deity who harvests souls. She sounded a bit like Cambretia. Do you remember Cambretia from your old schoolgirl lessons in antique lore? Cambretia, the witch from time of creation, source of all venom and malice. I turned my back on such thing when I entered a unionist monterey, said Sister Doctor. I'm surprised you remember such poppygook. I don't know if we're getting a meal, said Sister Apotecaire, but it appears like we're getting a pipe of some sort. A delegation of Unimana was approaching with communal smoke. A vile habit, snarled Sister Doctor, but she determined to do her best to make sociable and stomach such barbaric customs as courtesy required. And that's the end of that chapter. Thanks for listening. See you later.